With COVID-19, there has been a tremendous demand for fresh food.
Connecting American small farmers directly with their local consumers is one way the nonprofit FreshFarm is helping reduce food waste during the pandemic.
You're going to end up with a lot less food waste than you do with larger industrial systems because there's much fewer points along the distribution cycle where food can be wasted.
And at a smaller scale, planning to prevent waste is somewhat easier.
We're very good at keeping balance on our numbers of birds, and we don't really increase until we see a market demand of increasing.
Farmers market vendors are encouraged to donate any unsold produce to food banks, which then distribute it. And the need has exploded because of COVID.
Whether we have extra or not, I always make sure to bring some boxes to give to those people.
Food waste is a huge problem in the U.S., where more than 100 million tons is lost each year. At the same time, the charity Feeding America says 42 million people, or 1 in 8, may experience food insecurity in 2021. Food rescue programs have turned to the internet to safely manage pickup and sharing operations amid COVID-19 restrictions. They are attracting a wave of volunteers. Innovations are also on the rise. One example, instead of dumping unused food in landfills, where it adds to climate change by releasing methane, a startup, Loop Closing, is putting composting machines where food waste is generated, such as restaurants.
If you stop hauling food waste and compost it on site, it provides a path to get us from the 6% of recycling of food waste to 100%. And that product of finished compost is put into our soils, which makes our soils more resilient to extreme weather.
The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency is planning to follow United Nations recommendations to measure and set standards for reducing food waste by 50% by the year 2030.
The rest of the world certainly looks to the U.S. for leadership on climate change. The physical world has limits, and in many cases we're pushing up against them, in terms of the pollution that we generate through our production and consumption choices.
But making a serious dent in food waste will take broad collaboration, the U.S. Department of Agriculture says.
We're doing a lot of consumer education outreach. We're working with private sector stakeholders. We're spreading the word about the liability protections for businesses who wish to donate food to food banks and pantries.
Hello.
Michael Rhode is shopping more often at farmers markets in the pandemic. But when it comes to permanently eradicating food waste, he thinks the U.S. will have to fix another problem, the widening gap between poor and rich incomes.
America, in spite of our homeless and hungry problems, is still a rich country. So someone like me, I can come here and essentially buy as much as I want. And that can lead to food waste. And it's hard to see how you could ever actually resolve that issue in a fair manner, an equitable manner.
Verónica Valderas Iglesias for VOA News, Washington.